Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm very excited to present an interview that I just did this past Eid weekend with Ashley, a new convert to Islam out in Alabama. This is an amazing story that she tells in detail of finding her way through megachurch Christianity and tarot cards, Reiki, meditation, and all types of religious and spiritual exposure to give Shahada and not that long ago. And stick around to the end because she gives some amazing advice to new Muslims as well. So you're not going to hear me talk too much. She's going to tell the story, and it's quite an amazing story. So I really recommend hearing the whole thing. Without further delay, let's go to Ashley now.
I feel like most people of most like convert interviews that I've heard before, because I love listening to them and watching them, is like people like had a lot of times people have like a friend when they're a kid that's Muslim and they're like, oh, that's cool. And it like kind of like gives them an interest that just carries with them like maybe a really initial seed. But for me, I never had that like growing up. I mean, I've like been around Muslims, but I didn't have like a Muslim bestie or somebody that I lived near. I was just going through life like totally unaware of Islam. Like I had no idea. Um, and I had no, yeah, I really just never asked questions about it. I just was like, that's a thing. I didn't really ever like study like theology deeply to know about like, oh, these are the Abrahamic religions. Like, what does that mean? So I grew up really unaware, but my initial interest started when just a really dear friend to me converted to Islam in March of 2024, and just witnessing somebody go through the process of choosing this faith for themselves, that somebody that I like know really well just and am close to, it definitely sparked my interest, and I was like, I don't even know. It was kind of like I was really interested, but I was also like, whoa, like this is a really intense change that you're going through. So I guess it was a slow kind of gradual like dance in by just witnessing somebody take one. I didn't witness their shahada, but like witnessing post shahada life for somebody.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I think for me, it's kind of interesting to look back on. I don't know if other converts would relate to this, but I remember there was a long period of like learning about Islam or being exposed to it. Maybe it got shown to me in kind of a different way that made me
Mm,
take an interest in it, enough of an interest to start learning a little bit more actively,
mm,
or maybe a little actively. And then that period went on for a while, but then at a certain point, there was kind of a switch that flicked in my brain where it was like, wait a second, I'm not just like looking through the window into the house. I think I want to go in
mm.
there. Like, I'm not just interested about this stuff. I'm interested in it, and I'm not necessarily just learning about
Mm.
it. I think I'm like there's some kind of fulcrum that I'm crossing over where
Yeah.
I'm gonna actually do this and like become Muslim. Like, is that, do you remember moments, plural or a moment singular, where you started passing over?
I guess so. It was, I feel like because I was like so like the friend, the person close to me that converted, we were working together in the same place in the summer of 2024. We were working on a blueberry farm together in Ohio. It was so fun. And I was just witnessing him like go off to pray his salah. I was witnessing him just like, I guess, just watching like a true internal transformation happen. And I was just very intrigued, and it was just very moving to me. And I think at that time I was not like interested personally in like, oh, I gotta know about this. I think I was just really inspired and like happy for my friend. Like I was just like, wow, like yeah, just seeing that made me feel like so much warmth and curiosity. And I think because I firsthand kind of witnessed somebody practicing Islam that was so close to me, it was never like, oh, I need to like see for myself. Like, do I really believe? Like, I guess it was kind of like that, but I think just because I have such a deep relationship with the person that converted, I was like, oh, like I believe you. Like this has to be legit. Like I see the sincerity of your practice and the sincerity of like, your faith in God, that it wasn't like, I feel like it was a bit different from just like learning. I was really just witnessing somebody else. But fast forward to like after the summer ended and I was back by myself in Auburn, finishing school up. I had my final semester that was really like easy. Like I didn't have that many classes. I was just at the very end. I was ready to get out of school. And that's when I think I had a lot of time and some like personal devastation that I think kind of like brings you to a point where you can like get ready to accept God. I think it oftentimes you have to like be in a hurt place where you like fall to your knees, and that's when you're like, oh wow, and you can really accept it. But there was a time where I was like kind of on the fence. Like I started feeling like more of like a wait, am I about to do this? And it was a mix of like just knowing in my heart and uh like having a new perspective on the world around me after reading the Quran and praying Salah and kind of starting to practice. I started to like kind of see things a lot differently, and I just had this deep knowing. But there was like on the other side, there was like an anxious me that was like watching YouTube videos like of people that told their conversion story, or even watching those like almost like argumentative videos of people being like, this is why Islam is true. And that was like, I was super sensitive at that time because, like, I guess I was just really vulnerable. So, like, these videos, like, the guy that was like, I was writing an anti Islam book, and then, like, that video was really good. But also, I was on like Reddit. I used Reddit and I was like on the progressive Islam subreddit, but also I ended up being on the like ex-Muslim subreddit, and that definitely like was just some hard reading. So I was really trying to get like I guess a good like view from many perspectives, watching these videos, reading what ex-Muslims were saying. Um, and it was definitely like pulling me in all sorts of directions, but I think that there was like a time where I had like a deep knowing, but I just wasn't ready to like officially take my shahada yet. I was just practicing Islam for like a month and going to the mosque and being around like Muslims and like being invited to Muslim households. And like I feel like I was like I didn't change that much pre-shahada and post-shahada of like, okay, now you're a Muslim, you got to learn all these things. Like I definitely kind of like warmed myself up to make sure. So I don't know if that answers the question of like a turning point, but yeah, it was like a teeter totter, I guess.
Did you believe in God before all of this started happening? Was this kind of like a refinement of your relationship with God, or was this also like a journey from not believing at all to having that type of faith?
I think I've just always had like I've had very steady like faith and belief in God, I would say, for my entire life. And if not like a belief in like, oh, like there's just one true God and this like force, I have always been a believer in stuff going on in the unseen. And I've usually had like kind of a hard time understanding those that don't believe in anything in the unseen or anything at all, and they just think like what we're seeing in the physical is like all that there is. Because I've always been like, but like, what about that time you just ran into this person here, and like, times where you've had like crazy coincidences. I'm like, but you think that that's just like that just happens? So I've always been like, come on, like I've kind of without a doubt believed in God my entire life, but it's been uh I guess an interesting like journey from like growing up in the South, socially being like a Christian is like it's like a social thing for sure. So like my family was never religious. I was never raised to believe in God. My parents, I mean, I think they're believers and they have like some form of faith that's just internal for them, but they're just kind of like, hey, whatever, they raised me to like be kind to people and like work hard and just be a good person. But we would go to church. We were like Easter sometimes and stuff. But then my dad would be like, you know what? Like, why are we faking it? We shouldn't even go on Easter to church. Like, this is a lie. We can't go. And I really respect that. But when I got to middle school is when like people around me were like, do you want to come to church with me? Like, like trying to get me in there. They knew I wasn't a churchgoer, so I got kind of pulled into this like really popular community, and I was actually going to a mega church. Like it had like 10, 12 campuses. They have like billions of dollars. Like it was crazy. Like we had these crazy conferences where they rented out an entire arena for it. And like I don't really remember what I learned there. I just remember specifically we would always do at the end of every single Wednesday night thing, which we would go every Wednesday night, they would like turn on this music, this like emotional music and they would make us all like close our eyes, like bow our heads, and they would be like, "Are you struggling? Like, are you going through something right now? Blah blah blah." And then they would be like, "You can change your life, right now, if you just pray this prayer, like repeat after me." And it would just basically be like, "I accept Jesus into my heart," like type of prayer. And they would also make us raise our hands. They'd be like, if you're getting saved right now, raise your hand. And like it was some type of like obsessive like thing where I was super anxious that like I wasn't getting saved every time I did this prayer. So like every week I would raise my hand and do it. And I don't know, I was super anxious about that whole concept that, saying this prayer, accepting Jesus in your heart would like save you from the hellfire and you're like good to go now for life and your soul is free. And so it caused a lot of turmoil between my family and I, because I would be like crying in the car like, guys, like I really need you guys to become Christian. Like I feel so bad looking back. Like I like begged my mom to go to this mega church with me and she went. She was so sweet to go with me. So like that was kind of a while in my life, and then it kind of started tapering off. And I remember I got my dad to go to this mega church with me when I was a kid, and um it was right after gay marriage got legalized in the US, and the preacher was like, the enemy just won. Like the enemy, we're not going to say what happened, but we all know that the enemy had a win this weekend. And my dad just looked at me and was like, we got to go, like let's leave. Like we're leaving right now. And I was like okay. So it started to like taper off. I don't really remember exactly, but I guess like I always just like wanted like faith-based community and sisterhood, and I wanted some type of tradition and practice, something to like some type of structure to lead me towards God and keep me close. Like I loved the worship music, getting up there and being like singing and praying, and like there was some gems in just my time with the church. But overall I'd say like the notion that Jesus like died on the cross for all of our sins like never really made sense to me, and the prayer never really made sense to me. And yeah, a lot of the community was like kind of judgmental and just difficult for me to exist in, especially as I started kind of growing up and going into high school and being a delinquent in high school. So yeah, in high school I was like kind of out of the church by probably like 10th grade, and starting to be like a bad kid for sure. Um, and I was pretty aimless in high school. Most of my friends were not religious. I had like a friend, oh, actually my like boyfriend in high school, his dad was a psychic medium. So that really opened my eyes to like the unseen, because this guy was like like straight up was like, oh, like he met my stepmom and he was like, I see like you're like, he like described her grandfather like perfectly. Um and he like her grandfather had passed away, and like he was like delivering some type of message. So like that was really weird for me. Like when I was I guess like 16, like always being around this guy that was like low key like in the spirit world, or like really enmeshed in like another like other realms. And it was super like interesting to me because I was just like, what? Like there was like I guess to me it seemed like very clear proof that what was happening was legit. Like he was like seeing and kind of communicating with my stepmom's like father who had passed away. So yeah, he we started having like tons of really long conversations, and he believed, I don't know if you know of like the star seed theory. I do not believe in this, but at the time being a 16-year-old, I was like really amazed by like any of these ideas. But he would be like, you're a star seed, like you're from another planet, like you're here to save the world type of thing. And like I was like that feels good. Like I feel pretty like special, and I'm unique. And he like taught me how to like see people's auras. Like he was like training me low key. So we would like look at people's like we would like practice, and like it was kind of cool. So that I guess I was really my interest in the spirit world was kind of peaking, and I was like, whoa, like there's stuff happening. Like I've always believed there's stuff happening. And compared to the church that was kind of like just I guess like more predictable than this. Like this, I guess, really opened my eyes to like, whoa, like this is really colorful and like juicy. So I was still like, I guess, a believer in God at that time for sure, but I wasn't as focused on God. I was more focused on like what you can like talk to spirits, and there's like you can do like weird stuff here. So I don't know, I guess my focus wasn't on just like worshiping God. It was just like excited about these things. So yeah, through college was like an aimless search for God. um Still, and like I was like doing tarot readings all the time with my friends. We were like really into astrology. I was like really in with this like magic community. I was like a Reiki healer's like assistant for like a conscious festival in New Mexico, and we went together. And like I just this is when I started to be like, what is going on? Like, she told me that she saw like the beginning of time, and like saw her own soul be created. And she said like she's fought demons and like can astral project. And like, I just felt, I think at this point of like me kind of being in these esoteric spaces, I started to kind of like have this deep knowing that like I will never do anything like this. Like I don't know what I think of people that tell me that they do these things, but I just started to know like that is not my purpose on this earth. Like I don't know what my purpose is, but it's not to like, even though it sounds so fun to astral project somehow and like be, I don't know, really, I guess, enmeshed in like the unseen somehow, some way. This is when I started to have a knowing that like I wasn't going to do that. That was not an ability that I am going to have in my life. And that's okay. I started to become more comfortable with like my gifts and abilities and the person that I am. And I was like, there's really no need to do all this stuff. Like, there's really no need. So I guess always been a believer in God, and always been on some search and a deep interest in what's really going on. I would say there's never been a time where I haven't believed in God. I don't think there's ever been a time you could ask me that and I would say no. Oh, I will say one other thing. Like, I've always been a believer in the hereafter as well, for sure, like without a doubt. And one night I was having dinner with all of my friends, like 2 years ago, and we were talking about the hereafter, and every single one of them, I'm pretty sure, except for me, were like, actually, like nothing happens after you die. Like there's nothing. Like that's it. Like they were, like telling me like they one of them like read a book and was like, it's the human condition. Like we want to believe there's something after. We want to believe that we're more than we are, but we're just humans. Like so they were just coming at me with like a really atheist, like an atheist, I guess, perspective. And I remember like trying to imagine like dying and nothing coming after, just trying to imagine what it's like to not be conscious in that moment. And like I remember just I started crying like in front of all my friends. And they were like, "What? It's comforting to think that nothing happens after you die." And I was just like crying at our like little dinner gathering. I was like, "Dude, like that can't be it. Like that would be so horrible." So yeah, I've always been a believer to answer your question.
So one thing I'm curious about, if you don't mind indulging me, maybe
Mm.
just because of the feel for me, but also maybe other people will take interest in this. I'm curious what it was like to discover and get into Islamic prayer and the Salat, the way that we pray, and what that
Oh.
encounter kind of the early stages of that were like.
Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, Salah is super amazing to me. Like that's I love asking people what their favorite pillar is because everybody gives a different answer and they always have like really enlightening kind of ideas about every pillar. But I would say right now, my favorite pillar is Salah. It's so important to me. So I remember it was summertime, and I was in Ohio with my friend, and it was like he had just arrived in Ohio. He came like straight from Morocco, like where he like became Muslim. It was like, all right, let's spend the summer together, like reunion. Like this is gonna be awesome. And he was like, all right, I'm gonna go pray my Isha prayer. Like, and I was like, oh, okay, like enjoy that. And he like went off and prayed, and like I like started tearing up, like, because I was like, well, somebody else is praying. I'm not gonna just sit here on my phone. I'm not gonna just like read a book. Like, I'm gonna like sit and kind of do something, do my own kind of practice. I was like, maybe I'll like meditate here, or I'll just kind of sit and like breathe. So like, yeah, while he was doing his prayer, like I didn't hear him pray, but I just like felt that prayer, and I remember like feeling like super emotional and just being kind of teary eyed. And then he came back from his prayer, and I was like, wow, like I felt that prayer, like that was really emotional. And he was like, yeah, like that wasn't a really emotional prayer for me. Like I cried. I was like, what? That's like it was really uh I guess surprising or just pretty cool encounter that I had with Salah. My first encounter with Salah, I would say. So after that, I think it only took like 3 days until I was like, "Can you teach me like what you guys are doing? Like I need to know." Um, so I wanted to learn how to pray, and I was taught how to make wudu, did my whole cleansing, which was interesting. And we prayed. My first prayer I ever prayed was Fajr at the farm. And I will say, like, some people tell stories about hearing like the call to prayer and feeling like a deep peace, or maybe hearing the Quran for the first time and feeling like a deep peace. But I would say I did not feel that. I was like, whoa, like it wasn't like it wasn't not peaceful, but it was like it kind of scared me. I was like he did like, he recited Fatiha and like another surah, and I just remember hearing it, and it was like kind of shocking to me to hear my dear friend just like speaking Arabic. And I had no idea what he was saying, and I had no idea what we were doing. I was just like, like moving through the motions. But I always loved Sajud. Like I would like right when I hit Sajud, I'm like, yes, like this is what I needed. So it was interesting. I was not interested in learning how to recite at first. It took like probably a month and a half for me to even be interested in like, okay, let me recite like the actual surah that you're reciting. Like I just loved the practice of stopping everything you're doing and going to pray, going to do something dedicated to God. It didn't for me necessarily have to be Islamic Salah. So I remember there was a time where this is like really embarrassing almost, but it's true that like we would pray together sometimes. Like for example, we did a rafting trip in Idaho with a bunch of friends, and he was the only like Muslim there, and I was the only like I guess interested in Islam person there at the moment. And we would go off to pray, and he would just we wouldn't ever pray together at this point. We that the only time we like prayed together was maybe just a couple times, but he would pray his salah, do his thing, and I would like stand there doing the same motions, but I would like do my own thing. So like I was like I remember like freestyle rapping like my own worship. I was like I was straight up like freestyling in my head about like God and just like my gratitude, and then I would like go into sujood and just pray. And I didn't know about rakats, like I didn't know about like how many times to get up and down, but I would just kind of do my own thing. But it was really nice for me, and I think that was like important and part of the path to like just do my own thing and kind of explore like it and just yeah, just kind of segueing in. So I was just freestyling, and then sometime by the end of the summer I learned Fatiha because then I started being like I'm gonna go off and pray by myself like while we were still me and my friend we're still like traveling together. We ended up like going from Ohio all the way to Oregon, and that's when I was just like he gave me his Quran with like Fatiha in English and like I think also the like transliteration, and I was like I think I just read it in English and like really thought about it when I would pray. But there was never a time I was like, all right, it's time for Doher, like we gotta pray, or like, oh, it's Isha time. I was just kind of like tagging along, which was like really low pressure and nice, but I got to appreciate Salah. And I was also, I would say, like, I'm the type of person that really wants to hang out in Sujood. And especially because it wasn't like obligatory for me to like pray 5 times a day. It was just like, there was something about just like, I'm gonna pray right now. Like I want to do some prayer. Like I would just stay in sujood. Like I was just rambling to Allah like for a while, like every time. And it was actually kind of sometimes think about that time and like I want to like emulate how I was feeling and what I was doing that time because I wasn't like counting like okay how many rakats have I done, like oh we got to get this prayer in, it's time to go to the next thing. Like it was like every time it was time to pray I was like it's time to pray, let's hang out, let's talk. And I would really take my time. And some people are like oh you should really just make a dua at the end of prayer, and like you're not supposed to really like ruminate in sujood, like you just in and out, in and out. But for me, I'm just like, I'm sorry. I really like being in sujood. There's something about that position, the lifting of your heart. Like I feel a lot of like relief in that time. So I don't really understand still like congregational prayer. Like I feel like it goes so fast, and I really do like to take my time. So that's I guess a big part of my salah is like trying to really take my time.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So it's so nice to hear you like laughing and smiling about the freestyling thing too, because
Mhm.
I think this is an interesting part of convert stories that maybe can get overlooked. Like when I think about, I remember a conversation I had with my friend when I was sort of discovering the prayer, and I remember telling her like, sometimes it feels so good and I just finish the rakats, but then I just do more because I'm just into it and I'm doing, and she's like, yeah, you're not actually supposed to do that. Like each prayer kind of has the number that it has. And so there's this really charming newness where you're really, I think, enthusiastic, but these sort of supposed tos haven't quite crept in and you're sort of navigating and negotiating and just kind of in it. And there's like a freedom and a wilderness about that
Yes.
accompanies, I suppose, this kind of like growing, like immense swell or whatever it is that's sort of this tide you're riding to. So I think that's like a beautiful wilderness to celebrate, and maybe, it doesn't last and everything changes, but to look back on that with a smile, I think is the right way to do it, as opposed to, just calculating the distance between that and some kind of correct practice, right?
Yes. No, it was so sweet. And I remember one time me and my friend, we prayed together and like he did his like, Islamic prayer and I was just like super into my like weird routine I had going on of like freestyling for God and, and hanging in sujood for like a really long time. And I remember after the prayer, we just looked at each other and we were like, I feel like we were really on the same wavelength somehow. Like I just felt that that was like a really good prayer, even though like we is not the same. It was really special. It was like I think we both were like tuned in. And some people they worry so much about like, was my prayer accepted? Like, did I do everything right? And I'm just like, I don't really like to think that way because I'm just like, oh, I was doing my best. I was like really enthused and just like so happy and so focused on like being grateful. I'm like, I'm not worried about like if that was accepted or not. Like I feel in my heart that it was and it was appreciated. So yeah, that is like it's such a special. It was a really special time. Like a lot of funny moments where I was just figuring it all out, and I still am for sure. I still have like a lot of like even for Eid, seeing the lamb like on the table, like that was shocking to me. So it's not like after taking your shahad that you're like, all right, I'm good. I'm not awkward anymore. But I guess I do have like some of the basics down now. But oh my gosh, the learning is like lifelong.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? And that's a beautiful segue to the next question I wanted to ask you, actually, because I find that there's a lot of emphasis on this kind of like the lead up to the Shahada moment, and it's like this person goes from being not a Muslim to being Muslim, and then it's like they're
Yes.
in love now, and if they led whatever like if the bigger the contrast, the better. If this person was a Christian
Ah,
and now they're a Muslim, awesome. If they led this like life of sin and now they're Muslim, even better. But it's like either way, you have this kind of binary shift focal point, and it's like they did all this stuff and then they gave Shahada, and then the credits roll, they live happily ever after is kind of the implication, and like that's the end of the story. When
yeah.
really, I don't think that that's actually ever true, nor is that I think the right way to tell these stories. And, obviously I think that giving Shahada is has to be a major milestone on this path, but it's not the
Absolutely.
end, obviously, and it's not exactly the beginning either. It's kind of like a major
No.
milestone on the journey. And the question that I'm more interested in lately, um, or at least as interested in, is how has life been since then? So off camera,
Oh,
I think it's been something like 3 months now since you gave Shahada. So how, if that's true, how
oh,
long, how has your life been since then, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
oh. Is it okay if I tell my Shahada taking story though, as
Please,
well?
please,
Because I think
please.
that will make it. I think it's just like I think it will make sense to explain it after. Um, Yeah, so January of this year of 2025 is when I started really like locking into my dean. So I was off by myself, me and this friend, we were like yeah, we were like dating for a little amount of time. But it was definitely like there was definitely a rift that started to take place from uh him being Muslim and me not, unfortunately. Like we always get along and we still do, and there's so much love in my heart for this. He is deeply a friend to me, but he was also like an ex-partner. But yeah, this kind of like rift took place of like we just started to our trajectory started to really change, and I was in a place where I was like not sure. Like I was curious about Islam, but I wasn't sure. I was curious about like I'm just always a very exploratory person. So I just didn't have a trajectory. And I'm a type of person that's not sure about a lot of things. Like I feel like I'm still kind of like, I could go this way, I could go this way. And I feel like I'm really into the nuance of like things in gray area. So I'm never certain person. And I felt like he was very like clear on his path, sure about it. He's like a really well-read person. Like he was before he became Muslim, he was studying Islam like academically for like 3 years. so he was just like he was almost an Islamist, and it was just starting to be like, whoa, like I don't know if I agree with all these things. Just saying, I'm like I'm just not totally sure, and me being like this, I was a little bit overwhelmed by the straightness and the like the sureness. So we like stopped being in contact, and we were across ends of the country. So that was very important, and a crucial part of my path was for me to just be ripped away from the Muslim person that I was learning from, kind of clinging to, and just pushed in off of my own. And sometimes I look back and I would be like, oh man, it's kind of lame that my like Shahada story is like from like a lover or from like somebody I'm really close to. Like a lot of people's stories are way cooler when they like figure it out all by themselves. But then like I look back, I'm like, Allah's favorite language is like love, and this is it's a beautiful thing, and it's part of my story, and it's how I came to Islam. So I have to remind myself that like I came to Islam like because of Allah and like myself, like that is our relationship. But that will come into my Shahada story. So anyway, January of 2025, I am on my own. I'm kind of heartbroken, and I am just trying to find direction of where I'm heading. You know, it's my last semester of my undergrad. I don't know where I'm going afterwards. Uh, I have good community here and things, but I'm still just like unclear. And I'm still wanting my own practice. I'm wanting the same type of direction that my like ex had and friend who I don't want people to get confused. I call him my friend throughout the story, but he's also my ex-boyfriend. So I wanted direction, and I was taking a meditation course in Tuskegee, Alabama, with like a group, and it was weekly on Fridays. It was some of my friends that invited me into the group, and I was really honored. They're these two friends that invited, or four friends that invited me to the group, had studied magic in Boston, and were really like they were like into speaking to each other like telepathically, and like read a bunch of crazy books and spent like days on end like inside like in meditation stuff like that. I guess is like the type of friends that they were. So I was like really excited that they kind of invited me to come to this group, and in my head I was kind of like, hey, this is like the direction I'm supposed to be taking. Like awesome, it's been revealed. I'm super grateful to have this path. So like I was going, me and my roommate would go every Friday after class, and it was like a night thing. It was really sweet. We'd have dinner afterwards. Everybody bring their kids. We would all sit in this room in a big circle. We had this teacher who would like sit, before all of us, and the class was called Concentration and Memory. I don't know where it originates from, but they were talking about some Egyptian stuff. I don't really know. It was kind of confusing, but at first I was really into it because they were talking about one creator. They were like, this is all for the one creator. Like we give thanks to the creator. And it was like a monotheistic, like traditional, like kind of practice, I guess. So I was into that because like I guess I've always been like pretty like monotheistic in my journey. So I was cool with that. And I was like, hey, I'm into this. I'm into this. I'm into this. And it was some serious freaking shit we were doing. Like they were teaching us these methods of meditation where first of all I had to swear into secrecy about like what I was learning in the class, which that was kind of a red flag. um and they said you have to swear into secrecy because you don't want to tell anybody else, like other people may not be ready to know what we know. And I was like, whoa, bro. um So we would like sing these atonements before going into meditation that were like I think like Hebrew or something. And then we would meditate, and they wanted us to meditate like an hour daily, like almost every day or as much as you could in front of like a candle, and you had to like close your eyes and like go into the void. They told us to buy the special incense for it. So like I was just sincerely like trying. I was like, maybe this is the thing. Me and my roommate were doing it together, and like I freaking worked really hard to do my meditations, and like nothing was happening, man. Like we would all meditate as a group, and they would go around and be like, so like does anybody have like a impression they would like to share. And people would be saying the craziest stuff. They'd be like, I was on a star in the sky and like a lion came in front of me and like looked me in the eyes, like all this stuff. And then it would be like my turn and I'd be like, like I, I don't know, like it was cool. Like I think I kind of went into the void maybe for like a second. Like I don't know. So I just wasn't really sure what was going on, but it seemed like everybody around me really knew. And like there was people were going by some names in the class that definitely made me kind of uncomfortable. Like some people were going by names of like Hindu like gods and stuff like that. And I was just like, what's going on here? And so yeah, I kept going to the class for a little bit, and I was dedicating a lot of my time to these meditations, and I didn't really like it. Like I was kind of a chore. I was like, okay, like I'm trying to like be spiritual. It's time to sit down for a whole hour and like sit in the dark. Like I turned all the lights off, and I'm afraid of the dark, so that was kind of hard for me. And I would sit in the dark and do this. And I went to the class. Okay, yeah, so that was happening. But then also, I was reading the Quran. Like, I just randomly started, like, really delving into it. I got to, like, I guess, there's Fataha, and then the cow is, like, that really long surah. And then I got past that, and I started, like, just loving the Quran. And I feel like as I started reading it and like understanding it, I started understanding my ex-boyfriend so much of like his struggles as a Muslim. And I started to like really be like, whoa, like I get what you were going through, or I get why you felt strongly about this, or like why this is your perspective. And I just started to feel like kind of like my world splitting at that time. Like it was like night and day. Really, I remember just feeling completely different about everything. Like everything. Even, yeah, yeah, so my world was like opening up, but I was also kind of afraid because I was like, this is my ex-boyfriend. Like, I don't want this to be because like I like miss him or something, or like I want this to be because this is like truly my experience of like my world changing, not because of something weird going on in my heart. Uh, so yeah, I was reading the Quran, praying a little bit here and there, and like I was so emotional, like all the time. I was like crying all the time, like was like I was so vulnerable and emotional and heart was broken. And like I went to the class one day and somebody gave me a Quran. I was going to Friday prayer now, I think at this point. And when I got to the meditation class, I had freshly shaved my head that day. I had a really, okay, yeah, I had this really intense dream where like I shaved my head in the dream and I like held like a snake. Like I was given by my ex like a snake, and he was like, "Hey, like I know you're afraid of snakes, but this is my dear friend. Like I want you to take care of the snake and like return it to me one day. Like can you do that?" And I was like, "Okay." And like I faced my fears and held the snake. And I woke up that morning and like that's when I started praying full time, like Salah 5 times a day was when I woke up from that dream. Like I just knew it was like a deep, deep, deep dream. So it was like 2 weeks of praying Salah, and then I shaved my head because I was like, I just feel like I want a fresh start. I had a shaved head in that dream. Like that dream really means a lot to me. So anyway, uh, I go to the class, freshly buzzed, been praying for 5 times a day for like 2 weeks. To the best of my ability, missing some, but like I was still like really started to take it seriously because I just wanted to discover what that practice was. And somebody gifted me a Quran in the class. Like these people like brought a bunch of Quran translations and gave them to everybody. And like I remember I started crying when they gave it to me, just tearing up like, "Oh my gosh, like I just can't believe I'm getting this right now here." Like I've been reading the Quran and like it's so cool to have a different English translation. Like I was just like it was just really cool, and I was really in my heart is when I started to be like, am I Muslim? Am I meant to be Muslim? Am I meant to take this faith on, take this deen on? So I was super vulnerable because I was like watching these videos like about converts and reading Reddit posts and then reading posts of ex-Muslims that are like, screw this. And I was, and reading about like controversial things. So I was like all over the place, super emotional. and I'm facing a really difficult breakup. So I was just all over the place. And this class, you know, this was the final class of the whole thing. It was meant to keep going for many weeks, but this is the last class they did. They canceled after this. But the teacher didn't teach us meditation that day. He just talked about the setup of like the heavens. And basically what he said was like God, so there's like a true creator of the universe, but below that are like I guess people that were like once human that have like been like elevating themselves, like I guess living like multiple lives kind of theory or whatever, until they are at the level, at the status of like gods. And the guy asked me, he was like, if you could shapeshift into anything right now, like what would you shapeshift into? And I was like, I would be a cat because it would probably be pretty fun to climb a tree and just like know what it's like to do that as a cat. And he was like, I would be a god. And I was like, okay, what the fuck? Like, and it was like kind of like, you freaking idiot, you want to be a cat? And then like he it definitely was like, it was definitely like, you're stupid. But at least that's how I took it. But he was like talking about how like we're trying to become like the lower gods. Um and he said like if you're religious, if you're Christian, he started with like, all right, Christians are worshiping, he named this like weird name like Yahweh or some shit like that. He was like, they're worshiping this god in the lower heavens. And he was like, what are y'all's thoughts on that? And I was like, well, they are worshiping Jesus, which is probably not the move. Like, he was a man. I don't know if I agree with worshiping Jesus. And then he was like, yeah. And then he like kind of was like, whatever. And then he like read this passage and basically said like Christians, Muslims, like anybody that's just worshiping like God or is like not is worshiping some random god in the lower heavens that's like, he said that it's set up like a government system. And he was like, if he was like if you can imagine the world has a government system, of course heaven would also have a governmental system. I was like, I don't agree. Like, why would it also have a governmental system? And then he said that like the word Lord was created by these lower gods because they like wanted to get worshipped. So like this freaking stressed me out. If you can imagine how vulnerable I was at that time to any faith, and people that were really certain about what they were saying like freaked me out at the time because I was just very uh true to my uncertainty and to my lack of knowledge, or just under like having a, yes, I was just like, maybe this is true. But I cried after the class a lot and was like, dude, I like Islam, like I've been praying to God, like I've been praying. I've been practicing, I've been loving the Quran. And one of them told me that like they didn't tell me exactly what, but they were like, the story of like how the Quran was revealed, right? And I'm like, yeah, the angel Gabriel, like what a great angel, Shout out to the angel Gabriel. And they were like, you don't know the real truth about the angel Gabriel. And I was like, what? Like, why do you know the truth about the angel Gabriel? And they were like, like they just said that. They didn't tell me anything else, but they were just like, they all kind of started laughing and they were like, oh, the angel Gabriel, like, and I was just, I was so vulnerable. I was like, I trust the Quran, like, I trust what I'm reading. And now all these people around me are kind of like, you don't know anything. So, like, that was like a very crucial moment in this whole story. Like that moment is really important for some reason. So I went home that night and was like so anxious, could not sleep, was like, what the hell? Like I really like this. And these people are so sure that I'm doing something wrong, or that the angel Gabriel was like doing something wrong. And I'm just like, why? Like, why would God allow, 2 billion people to like practice this religion and be like, oh, actually, the angel Gabriel was sneaky or something. I don't know, like just weird. So yeah, the next day me and some of the same friends from the class, were doing a volunteer day on a farm nearby. So like I got to be in the sun, I got to kind of rest and talk it out with them, and they had some really good ideas and thoughts on just faith and their practice. And they were kind of like, man, it's okay if you are you choose Islam, like we don't think that you're like if it's in your heart that you're worshiping the creator of the universe, like that is what's true. And I really appreciated that kind of from my friends that have studied like deep esoteric stuff. So it definitely kind of made me feel a lot more at ease. And yeah, I got this like strong kind of message in my heart that day at the farm that was like, go to the mosque tonight, go to the local masjid tonight. And it was like a Saturday. So, there's no like Juma, there's nothing like, so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go. So I went that night and prayed and ended up meeting some amazing women that I sat with. They were a group that were practicing, their recitations of the Quran, and they welcomed me into their circle, and just showed me this type of love that I had not been shown previously in the group that I was in. It was just like they all had this kind of sense of like humility and just love for God and dedication to God. And they were all referencing the same book, the Quran, like instead of like pulling from all these different sources and different ideas, it was like we all reciting the same thing. And so the women all around me, like one of them I remember was like sitting next to me, just tearing up, like that I was there, and was just so happy. And they asked me if I was Muslim. I was like, no, not now. I'm super new. And they were like, that's okay. You're still our sister. And I just started like tearing up from that because it was so sweet. And we started making dua at the end. And like before we started making dua, like the one of the women turned to me and was like, just ask Allah, like just ask Allah. And I was like, okay. So we were making dua and they all made one just for me, which just really touched me. And I remember they asked me like, so like how close are you, do you think, to taking your shahada? I was like, dog, this is my first time in the mosque, like really. I'm like, I'm not. I was like, I told them I was like, it's gonna be a while, like it's gonna be a while, and I knew Ramadan was coming up, so I kind of had a feeling like Ramadan would be where I really get clear. So I was like, just like hang with me until Ramadan, like we'll see, we'll see. But I kind of knew I was heading in that direction. But when I walked out of the mosque, I just felt like this amazement at what just happened that I really felt this call in my heart to go there, and I listened, and that happened. Like I was just like, wow. And I said out loud, like, God, do not let me forget this moment. Do not let me minimize this moment. Like, let me always remember this as like what it was and the profound love that I felt like just coming off of these people. So that after that, it was really clear that Islam and like the people in the Islamic community are like prime and amazing and like the best. And they were just like I guess really those that I was around, I was like they're so devoted. They're so like to me grounded and so loving. And I was just thinking about how that type of love is a lot more impressive to be than somebody that practices like magic and can talk to spirits or something like that or can astral project or saw the beginning of time. I was realizing that really purifying your heart to where you can just love a stranger in the way that I was loved on, that is far more impressive to me. And I was used to be really into tarot, and there's like a card called like the Magician, and that's like I guess one of the most famous cards of the major arcana, or a really popular card. But what kept coming up for me in prayer was like I am impressed by the unconditional lover like more than I am impressed by the magician. And that was really a turning point for me because before that I have always been utterly in awe of anybody that does some type of magic or can talk to spirits or anybody in that realm. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, what do you have that I don't? That is so cool. Like, that is so amazing. But that is when I think I really actualized like that truth that had lived in me the whole time, that I'm not meant to practice this magic. I'm not meant to know how to do this. I'm not meant to talk to spirits. Like, I had known that, and it was like it had like all kind of come together of like I'm meant to just like love people and just be kind and be like boots on the ground like with people, not like up high up, in my own world. I'm meant to be here, I'm meant to be a human and just a regular human. And like that was a huge turning point. So I started really going to the mosque every week for Juma on Fridays. Like I said earlier that I was going to Juma already. No, I had started going after that. And I was just like praying Juma, living my life, going to the Saturday night group with all the women, and was still afraid of taking my Shahada. Like I was definitely afraid of taking the Shahada. It was a slow process, but I remember one week after Juma, there's this lady, and she literally was like, I had a dream that you took your Shahada last night. She was like, have you taken your Shahada? And I was like, no, no, like, I'm nowhere near that. Like, I have not taken my Shahada, girl. And she was like crying, like, I was just like, and I was like, whoa, whoa, like, no. And then Ramadan started like a week later. And I still, at the beginning of Ramadan, was like, I'm not going to take my shot. Like the first night of Ramadan, I thought about it with some of my friends that I was eating with because we were talking about the Shahada. And I was like, you know what? Like, why not? Why don't I just do it? But it was the first night of Taraweeh prayer of Ramadan. I was at the masjid. I really liked Taraweeh. I tried to go to as many as I could during Ramadan, but I prayed my Taraweeh prayer. And like I had some people had asked me, "Do you want to set up a shahada at the mosque, like get everybody to watch?" And I had always had a vision in my head, like I don't want that. I don't want to do it with some guy that I don't know or some. I don't want to. I want it to be really personal with people that I love. And alhamdulillah, Islam is so flexible that that's like a thing. It is possible to do it this way instead of like a super formal kind of thing. So I had this vision in my head of it being with just like three other women around me. That is like what I saw in my head when I thought about my shahada. It was like it was nighttime and there's women around me, and it's not done in secret, but it's kind of done like privately, and it's not like planned out. It's just kind of like, let's be together, you're safe here. It's kind of like a cave moment. So yeah, I was praying Taraweeh, thinking a lot about like my relationship with my ex, and like, I really want to be focused on God alone. Like, and I want to make sure that I'm choosing Islam for like my relationship with God. Because how tragic would it be if I chose it because of like a love for another human? Like, that was my biggest fear. My biggest kind of drawback from choosing Islam was I wanted to make sure it was done with the most sincere heart. So Taraweeh, I was like feeling it, man. I was like, Allah, it's me and you. Like, it's me and you. Like, I was like, it's us. Like, we in this together. Like, you're with me for life. Do not leave me. And like, I was super into it during Taraweeh. Like, I was feeling it. And afterwards, I was like, really asking God to turn my heart. Like, in my prayer, just like, I really just want you to turn my heart. And so after the Shahada, I was talking to this woman who I had just met that night. Her name is Kendra. And I was talking to her. I told her about like an event that we were doing at the mosque because she's didn't know about it. We were doing a special iftar that my friend is planning. I was like, "You need to come to this." Da, 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 da. And then she assumed that I was Muslim. I was like, "Oh, I'm not." And we talked, and she was like, "Dude, you're like here for Taraweeh prayer. Like, you're fasting for Ramadan. You've been praying. Like, what's holding you back? Why haven't you taking this leap?" And I told her honestly, like, dude, I want to make sure it's like sincere because like I found Islam through like a lover, like through a boy. And I don't want that to be like my story. I don't want that to be why I like take this seemingly like irreversible step, which is the Shahada. Like, and she was like, "Girl, you are sincere. Your deen is shining from inside out. Like, I can see it." And she told me, like, "You told me all about your friend's event. Like, you came up to me and told me about that." She's like, "You are sincere. Like, you did that, of course." And so I was like, "Huh." And she gave me a whole pep talk. And then after the end of the pep talk, she was like, "You ready?" I was like, oh, I was like, okay, 1 second, like close my eyes. And I was kind of just like, screw it, let's go. Let's take the shot. So it was like her across from me, and then this other girl that I had just met that night to the left, or no, yeah, to the left. And then on the other side was a good friend, Bashira, who had been like walking with me through my whole process, having me over for dinner a lot. She gifted me the awesome study Quran. So it was like it was a beautiful moment. Took my shahada, and honestly, it was a freaking scary moment. After taking it, Kendra and the other sister were like, "Oh my gosh!" After we took our shahadas, we felt like so amazing. Like the world just looked like so colorful, and like I felt so much peace in my heart. Like, oh my gosh! Like, how do you feel? And I was like, "Bro, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared." Like this is real now. Like I am obligated to do these things. It's not just that I'm like doing it. Like now I have to pray 5 times a day. And I was just like, I'm scared. I'm scared. And like we went outside and I was just like Kendra was like hugging me and like was crying. She gifted me a book that I really enjoy, and yeah, it was, I was just like, she was really there for me in that moment. She still is. We still are in communication, spend lots of time together. But she was there for me and she was like, all right, baby, you need to go home, take a shower, 2 rakats, thanking Allah, and then go to bed. And I was like, okay, yes, ma'am, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. And yeah, so honestly, that now into like the post Shahada life, I would say that like it is okay that to be afraid after taking a shot or to have moments of fear. Like it's not, it wasn't for me like a beautiful rainbow experience where everything afterwards was easy. It was like a deep reckoning with like you just, you basically like you just took like a transformative step that you can't undo, you know, that you really want to commit to your the rest of your life to this. And I was freaking scared. Like I go and pray in the office of one of my other Muslim friends who's also a convert. And like I remember telling her, she was like, "How do you feel? Like congratulations!" Like gave me a big hug, and I started crying. I was like, "I'm really scared, dude." Like I was like, "Did I get pressured into taking this? Like did I really take it, you know?" And she was like, it's okay. She was like, I felt the same way. Like she jokingly was like, yeah, I had a little bit of buyer's regret for a second there. Like it's scary. And I was like, ah, okay, okay. So yeah, it just, I don't remember, I remember just like it took me a minute to get used to it, and there's still times where I'm still getting used to it, and there's still times where I get really scared or overwhelmed by, you know, the choice that I've made. And I'm just overall a person that's not super certain about the things that I choose and the things that I do. So it was scary, but it was Ramadan, and a week later, I traveled to visit one of my best friends in Santa Fe. And I was like, yo, I'm Muslim now. Like, let's go to the masjid. Like, can we please? Because I was anxious. I was like, I gotta like really be serious about Ramadan. Like, I gotta be at the masjid. I can't miss my prayers. I'm visiting my friend, but like, you know, like I'm a Muslim now, you know, there's no playing around. So she went with me to the masjid, and we met some amazing, amazing, amazing people there. I spent a lot of time with two women that I met there, Layla and Iman, and just felt completely held, you know, by them. And Iman's husband was actually a convert from the US. So she like really, I guess, understood what it was like, and she had kids that were like close to my age. So we were like a family during Ramadan. We all slept over at her house, including my friend Breck that I was visiting, my non-Muslim friend. She fasted with us for a day. She was eating iftar with us. She was super supportive of me, and I got to really like talk about like what had happened, that I'd just taken my shahada, that I was Muslim now with my like really good friend who's a sister to me. And you know, to have somebody be like, sounds legit, sounds like what you're doing is normal, you're doing great, like that was super important. So yeah, just been really getting used to it now. of post Shahada life, but I would say that it's I mean, yeah, just and like it's I think it's been really gradual after the fact. Like beforehand was like rapid, intense, very emotional, lots of deep reckoning, and afterwards I feel a lot more mellowed out. Like I'm not going on YouTube watching like this is why I converted to Islam videos to like convince me, that I made the right choice. I'm like really grounded in my choice now, and I have a lot more discernment about around people that I talk to that are like not Muslim or like are into spiritual esoteric things, and I feel more like I'm Muslim. Like I know, like I know in my heart that I've made this choice, and I'm really happy to have. And so it's just been more mellow now, and I think I'm just kind of getting used to this new life and how it works, and I'm trying to read and read and read and learn for myself. But I would say the biggest, most difficult part of being a new convert is just all the information that's coming at you from every direction from people that want to help, and you just have to use your discernment of like somebody told me that if you make wudu before you go to bed and then you wake up at midnight and you make a dua in your bed, your prayer will like 100% be answered and you'll like get what you ask for. And like there's stuff like that where I'm like, like that doesn't make sense to me. Like God's not to me like this magic genie that like I just have to do something special to like get what I ask for. Like I'm getting what I need from God. Like I'm asking for whatever I think I want, but like I'm getting what I need. So yeah, and it just takes a lot of courage to, have faith in what your faith is and what your practice is. And there's just times that can be like really hurtful from people. Like I was with a sister and she wanted to see what I looked like when I had longer hair. So I showed her a picture that was old on my Instagram of my long hair. And out of kindness and just sincerity of just like wanting to help me, she was like, you could like delete all of these old photos of you, like that are like less modest. And I was like, it took that moment I had to be like, yeah, I could do that, but like this is me and my life and my story, and I'm not uncomfortable with these being here. Like this is just part of who I am and what I've been through. And culturally, like we're very different. Modesty to Americans is a lot different than modesty to like other parts of the world. So I'm not going to delete these things. But it definitely takes like a lot of courage to be a new Muslim, to be somebody that is a revert and takes your Shahada and you're figuring it out. And yeah, I think the most important thing that I'm figuring out is like steady maintenance of my learning and discoveries, and also like knowing that like people are gonna come to me to help me, and they really do it because they just want to help, and it's really sweet. But I have to, yeah, be careful about like the advice that I'm being given, and I have to look at their practice, their faith, their Islam, and think about like, is this what I want? Is this my vision for what my practice will look like? Or, is it different for me? So finding resources that you like and stuff like that is like really, I guess, important. And also just like I'm really trying to give myself more grace because yeah, I get definitely in like loops of like anxiety that I'm not doing enough or I'm not good enough or my practice isn't good enough. But like, I can't have that all or nothing mentality. Nobody can, of like, you're either like perfect or you're nothing. Like, you're just trying to find a middle ground. And it's a thing. It's not easy, but it's really like worth it. And I have still moments of just feeling so ecstatic and grateful that Allah made me a Muslim. So yeah, I guess honestly, post Shahada life has been mellow, with difficulty that I'm figuring out how to overcome. But also, just I've had so many moments of just ecstasy and gratitude in this whole time. So yeah, that's my really long answer.
Mm, mashallah, that's beautiful. No, really, really well told. And I think it sounds to me, I don't know, my two cents is that you've got a really excellent and balanced viewpoint on it that I hope is helpful to any new convert watching this because I think the idea of having discernment about what people kind of put on you, well-meaning though it
Mhm.
might be, is just so important. And people
Yeah.
emphasize taking it slow, but kind of taking it your way too, I think is a good thing to do. And for me, I remember one of my favorite things looking back on it, especially that people would do, would be lend me or give me books. Because I remember sometimes I'd read the first couple of pages and I'd be like, yeah, nah. And then other times I'd be like, yeah, well, actually, hello, this is interesting. Let me go down this rabbit
Uh,
hole. And kind of finding my own sort of learning journey and connecting with voices that I connected with and allowing myself the grace of not exposing myself to ones that I didn't necessarily connect with
right.
and things with a grain of salt. I think that's so important. And what I
Right.
love about your story, if I may say, is just and why I'm glad to have like a long form conversation that gives space for all of this is, you're first of all, your story talks about going all over the United States. You talk about going to Oregon and going to Santa Fe and going like to all these different places, and that's so interesting. And then also you tell a story that involves being exposed to like the megachurch culture and being exposed to, whether it's like tarot cards or the meditation group and whatever else. And I also love this idea of trolling not trolling, but going through the like the ex-Muslim subreddits and seeing all this. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is not a story that's lacking in exposure to other points of view, other spiritual,
Yeah.
paradigms and other spiritual communities and so on. I think it's very difficult for me and probably anybody to doubt your sincerity. And you really
Oh,
it sounds like you took your time and you kind of you really wanted to be sure, and that's all very relatable. This is not a story. Not only that, but there was pressure coming in that you didn't necessarily kind of bend to right away. This is
yeah.
not by emotion. Like it's such a premeditated sort of sounding thing that sort of really took
Right.
its time, but was also extremely well informed, right? And I think that that's
Mm.
maybe a stereotype that I seem to get not from people who are necessarily Islamophobic, but from people who are skeptical about religion almost more ambiently. Like it's like all
Yeah.
religion is just like, oh, I get it. You just sort of wanted to belong and you sort of wanted to turn your brain off and just kind of
Right.
like
Yeah.
stop shit. And it's like, well, if you
Yeah.
actually look at these things, how this story progresses, it's really not that at all. If anything,
Right.
uh, there's a lot of skeptical internal voices or a lot of yeah, discernment, I guess is the best word for it. So I think that's really
Right.
beautiful. I'm really grateful for you kind of spelling all of that out. And
Oh, thank you. Yeah. For me, it was really, I really admire people that have like just a heart sent, like my friend Kendra, the sister that was the one that kind of like was like, it's time to take a shot, girl. And it was, so was. I love her like so much. But her story is insane. She was like 15, I think, went to an Islamic conference, had watched one lecture, and took her shahada there and like just knew. She had this knowing. And this is the thing, like for me, with my distance from religion and never really like yeah never having like a deep faith with like a religious tradition, more exploring these kind of like yeah stuff. It was like I needed a lot of time, and I needed support like the most. Like it wasn't just learning for myself. I i would i would like to add that like I had so many long conversations with people, like my roommate Lauren, she is really into the esoteric. Like she reads like crazy amounts. Like she's always reading, and she's also comes from a Catholic background, so she's like kind of understands both, and she's very well read. Like, and I would talk to her like, "Girl, I think I want to do this." And we were also going to the meditation class together. And I was like, uh, and she just gave me so much validation and was like, "Dude, like, there's nothing wrong with like a tradition. Like this has been tried and true for hundreds of years, and like it's a deep practice. Like it's a deep practice." And it was really good coming from her because I really trusted her and I knew like how much she like knows. So that long like me and Lauren, I would wake up in the mornings for Fudger, and she's just a morning person, and we'd sit on the couch drinking coffee or just hanging out for like an hour every morning, just talking. And like she was just such a good listener to me. Like I was straight up just yapping about like what I was going through and how I was anxious and emotional about all these things. She was always there listening. And like after my shahada, Kendra, like the one that I took my shahada with, she's literally made herself so available to me. She checks in on me all the time, especially after shahada. We would text every single day. We would call all the time. We would send each other audio messages and selfies and pictures and tell stories and like I'm the type of person that really, 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 really needs people and relationships, and we all do. But I think like I'm extra squishy or something. Like I just know I'm not. I would not have been capable of this just from learning and reading and just taking my shahada. Like I needed community. Like some people do it on off of like a Discord server and off watching some YouTube and they do it. But for me, I needed like a lot of one-on-one time with people. So like I'm really grateful for that, and also for my ex. Like, just under, I think like his process and his Shahada story is like similar to mine, and just I'm really grateful that he went through that first before me because like I was able to kind of like compare and contrast his experience with mine, and it gave me something to like base off of it. So I really believe like Allah knew my heart and what was going to work for the soul that I have. But yeah, it was also like a huge, not only was there a lot of like rational thinking, but it was like a huge realization of like what it means to be conscious. Like I realized I'm like not entitled to my consciousness. I'm not entitled to be here. And I didn't come up with anything here. Like I hear a lot of people say like the creation is the creator, or we're all one, we're all like, part of God, or like we're all God. And like that's always kind of made me uncomfortable, but now it really does because I just think that that's a dangerous way of thinking if you think you thought of this or you have a special power. Like people say all the time, like the human mind is so powerful, like we can manifest things into reality. And I'm just like, we're really not. I think it was like in January and February before the Shahada was the flipping of like night and day of how I viewed the world was centered around that, around like I am a speck of dust in the universe. Like I am just a speck of dust. I am not It is not necessary for me to be here, I don't believe. I'm just given the gift of being here. I'm not here to save people. I'm not here to be a superhero. I'm not here to be a star seed and to have a special mission. Like, I'm just freaking like gifted this life. So I better do my best with it. I better use it wisely because I'm not entitled to it at all. That's that's really like how to sum up like what I realized, and that led me to Islam because that's most of the Muslims around me, like that's kind of what they seem to embody. And all the people before that, were like, "Oh, I've seen the beginning of time. I can do this. I can do that." And it's like, nah, we're just people.
So true, so true, so true. Amazing. You've been so generous with your time. I'm really grateful. I think this is a beautiful, beautiful story that inshallah will be of benefit to somebody. Is there any, maybe it's almost too fresh to even ask, but out of curiosity, is there any advice that you would give to someone who's thinking
Mm,
about becoming Muslim or maybe just did or
yeah.
anything that comes to mind that you kind of it sounds like you got some really good support, but is there anything that maybe you would have benefited from hearing that you didn't, that your future self would tell your recent past self or anything along those lines?
Oh, yeah. Like take the giving yourself grace like seriously. Like really don't mess around with giving yourself grace. Like really give yourself grace. Like that is like a journey in and of itself to learn how to be graceful with like how difficult the experience is, and like reflect on how much has already happened or how much has already taken place in your journey even before maybe discovering Islam. But like I look back now and I'm sometimes like, gosh, like I don't know anything. Like I only know two surahs. Like I suck. And then I stop and I'm like, yeah, but like the way that I see the world is completely different. The relationships that I have are completely different. Uh, I'm praying 5 times a day. Like, come on. And yeah, like I remember feeling super anxious about it. And I saw a Muslim lady in the grocery store that I knew from the mosque. And she knew I was a new convert. And like, yeah, we talked about, I was like, yeah, I do my 5 prayers. And she was like, you're praying 5 times a day? Like, that's incredible that you established that. And I was like, yeah, yeah, like it's okay. Like that is a big deal. And you just can't be rushing the process. And yeah, that's like really important. And also like the questions that you have, the things that you're worried about, like just pray about it. Like just ask Allah for guidance, for understanding, because like it will come in the time that it's supposed to come in. It always does for me. It always does, especially if you have your ears open, your eyes open, and you're listening for those answers and for that guidance. Like it comes every single time without a doubt. So if it's meant to. So like great, giving yourself grace, being patient, asking Allah first before other people, like before going to humans, really talk to God and look back on the progress that you've made in your life and savor that and like be proud of that before, feeling bad about what you don't know. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Beautiful, mashallah. Wise words. Love it. Thank
Thanks.
you again for sharing your amazing story. SubhanAllah, that's incredible. And I just know it's gonna do some good, inshallah. So
I hope
yeah,
so.
thanks again. And we'll be making dua for you. And yeah, I
Mm.
hope you have a beautiful rest of your Eid. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.